right on ahead with our plenary session 2. And like I said, ladies and gentlemen, this next session is on biodegradable waste management and menstrual waste management, which are critical components of the SPMG value chain, particularly in context of rural India, where such waste also includes agricultural waste and waste from livestock rearing, besides household level waste. To share with us models of biodegradable waste management in a rural setting, we have Mr. P.S. Ojha joining us virtually. Rohit, I would just request you to please check if sir is with us online.
Mr. Ojha, if you can please hear us.
Yes.
Thank you so much, sir, for joining.
Yes.
Welcome, sir. We also have with us Dr. Arundati Muralidharan. Ma'am, I would request you to please take your place on the dais. And representing a corporate perspective, we have Shri Manoj Agarwal. Sir, could you please join us on stage, please? Like session 1, this session is going to be of 1 hour, and we will request each speaker to restrict themselves to about 10 to 15 minutes so we can take questions towards the end. And before we begin, I would briefly introduce our speakers to you. And the first speaker for this session is Shri P.S. Ojha. Mr. Ojha is currently working as State Advisor FPO to Agriculture Department. And Shri Ojha's contribution to SLWM has been vast via his work on bioenergy mission, where he developed effective waste to wealth models, some of which we are hoping to see today. We also have with us Dr. Arundati from MHAi. Dr. Muralidharan is a leading expert on menstrual health and hygiene and had close to 2 decades experience in this sector. Her work is related to evidence generation and policy advocacy on informed product choice, waste management solutions, and quality standards for products and waste technologies. She has to her credit several research publications on these subjects, and we are really looking forward to hearing from her today. Representing the corporate perspective, we have Shri Manoj Agarwal, General Manager, Ambuja Cement Foundation. And under his able leadership and vision, ACF carried out the triple T approach in their intervention areas of tanka, toilet, and training to each household in their intervention areas. We are really looking forward to hearing more about his projects. To start the session, I would request Shri Ojha to kindly share his work with us. He's joining us virtually. Sir.
हेलो जी, मेरी प्रेजेंटेशन की स्लाइड शेयर कर दें प्लीज. यस. आज के इस सत्र में मैं पीएस ओझा आप सभी का हार्दिक अभिनंदन करता हूं. हमारा प्रेजेंटेशन 2 पार्ट में है. एक तो बायोडिग्रेडेबल वेस्ट जो वेट नेचर का है, गीला कचरा और सूखा कचरा, और ये संदर्भ लिया है सन 2018 में माननीय प्रधानमंत्री जी ने एक संदर्भ दिया था हम लोगों को, कूड़ा से कंचन और अन्नदाता ऊर्जादाता भव. तो इसी पे आधारित है ये प्रेजेंटेशन. और इसमें हमने जन सहभागिता, जैसे अभी इसके पहले एक प्रेजेंटेशन था सोडी साहब का, उसमें एडॉप्शन वाली बात थी. तो हमने प्रयास ये किया है कि इस दोनों मॉडल को कमर्शियली अडॉप्ट कर लिया जाए. तो इसको बेस करके ये पहला प्रेजेंटेशन है मिशन बायोगैस. इसमें कूड़ा से कंचन की बात करी गई है. नेक्स्ट स्लाइड प्लीज. इसमें हम लोगों ने संपूर्ण स्वच्छता की बात करी, और जैसा कि हमारे संदर्भ में दिया गया कि भारत ये डिसेंट्रलाइज कम्युनिटी के लिए बेसिकली गांव आधारित मॉडल है, किसान आधारित मॉडल है. या तमाम जो स्वच्छता के कार्यक्रम संचालित होते हैं, बाद में उसकी कंटिन्यूटी में तमाम प्रॉब्लम आती है, अक्सर हर सवाल पूछा जाता है. तो इसमें ये संदर्भ हम देना चाहेंगे कि जिसकी चीज है उसी को बनवा दिया और वो अपने स्वयं चलाता है उपयोगिता के अनुसार. इसमें गांव में जितना बायोडिग्रेडेबल वेस्ट है किसान के पास, उसके घर में, उसके खेत पे, उसके जानवर का, सबका इस्तेमाल इसमें हो जाता है. और ये जो पारंपरिक बायोगैस का जो मॉडल था उससे थोड़ा सा भिन्न है। बेसिकली एक नेचुरल प्रोसेस है कि कचरे को जब ढक देते हैं, गीले कचरे को ढक देते हैं, ऑक्सीजन की अनुपस्थिति होती है तो उसमें बायोगैस बनती है। अब बायोगैस बनती है तो वो प्रक्रिया नेचुरल है। अब उसमें जो पाचित्र या डाइजेस्टर है, डाइजेस्टर में जो तकनीकी खामियां पहले छोटे छोटे जो तमाम केवीआईसी मॉडल बने और तमाम मॉडल बने, उसमें जो कमियां थी उसको दुरुस्त करके हम लोगों ने नया मॉडल दिया था। इस पे आगे नेक्स्ट स्लाइड चलें प्लीज। अब जैसे इसमें हमने कहा कि कचरा जब सड़ेगा तो बायोगैस बनेगा। बायोगैस में मीथेन 62 से 65% है, कार्बन डाइऑक्साइड 30 से 32%, हाइड्रोजन सल्फाइड 1 से 1.5%, जलवाष्प 1 से 1.5%। अब इसमें से जो गोवर्धन योजना हुई तो गोवर्धन में कमर्शियल स्केल की बात करने लगे हम लोग, तो ये बाकी जो 3 गैसेज हैं नीचे वाली, कार्बन डाइऑक्साइड, हाइड्रोजन सल्फाइड और जलवाष्प, इसको हम सेपरेट कर लेते हैं तो वो मीथेन को कंप्रेस करके रखते हैं, तो सीवीजी या सीएनजी या बायो सीएनजी की बात हम करते हैं। तो इसका कमर्शियल स्केल पे जाया जा सकता है, जिसके लिए मिनिस्ट्री ऑफ पेट्रोलियम नेचुरल गैस सतत योजना चला रही है और मिनिस्ट्री ऑफ ड्रिंकिंग वाटर सैनिटेशन गोवर्धन योजना संचालित कर रही है। नेक्स्ट। अब इसमें उद्देश्य क्या था, ये गांव में खोलने का उद्देश्य क्या था? इसमें ग्रामीण परिवेश में ठोस एवं द्रव अपशिष्ट के प्रबंधन के माध्यम से संपूर्ण स्वच्छता यह उद्देश्य था। अब द्रव अपशिष्ट, इसमें आप गौर करेंगे जैसे जानवर गोबर करने के साथ साथ पेशाब भी करता है, उसके इर्द गिर्द गीला बना रहता है, तो हम ऐसा बना लेते हैं कि वो ड्रेन से होकर उसी डाइजेस्टर में चला जाता है। तो उस तरीके से लिक्विड वेस्ट जो बाद में खुले में सड़ता है तो बदबू आती है, इससे मच्छर मक्खी पनपते हैं। तो ये सारी सॉलिड एंड लिक्विड वेस्ट जो किसान को फोकस करके बनाया गया है। दूसरा, ग्रामीण गैस में कुकिंग गैस की सुनिश्चित आपूर्ति की बात करी गई है। इस मॉडल में मैं बताना चाहूंगा जो फैमिली साइज मॉडल है, इस तमाम सक्सेस स्टोरी यूपी में है और हमारे, तो मैं कहूंगा मुजफ्फरनगर में डिस्ट्रिक्ट मजिस्ट्रेट, कौशाम्बी में डिस्ट्रिक्ट मजिस्ट्रेट ने अपने बंगले पे बनवाया, क्योंकि जनरली कलेक्टर के बंगले पे गाय जरूर होती है या गाय कोई जानवर दूध देने वाला होता है, तो उन लोगों ने अपने बंगले पे बनवाया ताकि इसका व्यापक प्रचार प्रसार हो सके। तो इसमें यह है कि यदि 2 जानवर किसान के पास है, अब जैसे हम एक नंदिनी योजना स्टेट में चला रही है, भारत सरकार नेशनल लाइव स्टॉक मिशन चला रही है, तो जानवरों के प्रमोशन, दूध देने वाले जानवरों के प्रमोशन की बात, तो जानवर रखा जाएगा तो गोबर होगा, गोबर होगा तो गंदगी होगी, गंदगी होगी तो गंदगी की रक्षा से करते हुए इस बात को हम की गैस भी बना लेंगे और जो उससे बायोमास, बायो स्लरी निकलती है। भारत सरकार की एक योजना प्राकृतिक खेती की भी चल रही है, ऑर्गेनिक खेती या नेचुरल फार्मिंग की भी बात हो रही है। तो बचा हुआ बायोमास, जैसे कहा था, प्रकृति से जो हमें मिला, जिस रूप में मिला अपने काम की चीज निकाली, बाकी प्रकृति को वापस कर दिया। तो उद्देश्य यह है कि हमने कुकिंग की व्यवस्था कर दी। तीसरा बिंदु है विकेंद्रीकृत पावर जनरेशन इकाइयां स्थापित कर ग्रामीण विद्युतीकरण कार्यक्रम, लाइट एंड फैन। गौर करिएगा, यदि छोटा जनरेटर चला के लाइट एंड फैन की, जैसे ग्रिड कनेक्टेड बिजली जैसे ट्राइबल एरिया में है वहां बना दिया जाए और छोटा जनरेटर लगा दिया जाए, बिजली वहां जब सुविधा अनुसार आपको बिजली उपलब्ध होगी। इसमें इसके अलावा स्पीड की बात है, स्मार्ट पावर फॉर एनवायरमेंट फ्रेंडली इकोनॉमिक डेवलपमेंट। अब मैं आगे स्लाइड में दिखाऊंगा, एक यूनिट यहाँ पे पैकेजिंग की थी लखनऊ में, इसमें हीटिंग के लिए वो बिजली का इस्तेमाल करते थे। बिजली का रेगुलर इंटरप्शन की वजह से हीटर गड़बड़ होता था, सिस्टम इंटरप्ट होता था, तो उन्होंने एलपीजी गैस लिया। एलपीजी महंगी पड़ती थी उनको, तो उन्होंने बायोगैस पे प्रयोग किया और वो सक्सेसफुली चल पड़ा। फिर उन्होंने लखनऊ शहर से दूरस्थ गांव में जाके एक यूनिट लगाई और लखनऊ की सबसे वन ऑफ द बेस्ट पैकेजिंग यूनिट के रूप में अपने को एस्टेब्लिश किया। जितनी बड़ी यूनिट थी उसे 3-4 गुना बड़ी यूनिट लगा लिया। वहां खुली जगह ले लिया, शहर में पुराने जमाने में 30 साल पहले लगाया था उन्होंने। तो एक स्मार्ट पावर की बात मैं कर रहा हूं। पावर माने बिजली हो गया, पावर माने हम सिर्फ बिजली की बात नहीं कर रहे, पावर माने पावर के कई पैरामीटर। उसमें पावर में आपको ठोस ईंधन से मिलता है, गैस ईंधन से मिलता है, लिक्विड ईंधन से मिलता है, तो उसमें गैसियस ईंधन की बात हम कर रहे हैं इसमें, और हीटिंग की बात कर रहे हैं। फिर ऑर्गेनिक खेती की बात है इसमें, और ऑर्गेनिक खेती गांव में मैं तो यह अनुभव पाया है, चूंकि एफपीओ के साथ एक इंटेंसली काम कर रहे हैं हम, हमारे बल्कि एक किसान बुलंदशहर के, उनको पद्मश्री अवार्ड हुआ इसी मॉडल पे, नेचुरल फार्मिंग के मॉडल पे, कि बायोगैस की स्लरी उन्होंने अपने खेत में कोई केमिकल फर्टिलाइजर इस्तेमाल नहीं कर। पद्मश्री डॉक्टर भारत भूषण त्यागी, उनको पंतनगर यूनिवर्सिटी ने डॉक्टर ऑफ साइंस की उपाधि दिया ऑनरी रोज। तो ये उपलब्धि हमारे किसानों के, किसान करता है, हम उसकी मदद करते हैं। नेक्स्ट प्लीज, नेक्स्ट। वित्त पोषण की बात है तो वित्त पोषण में अभी बैक प्लीज, वित्त पोषण में पहले वाली स्लाइड प्लीज, बैक बैक पहले, यस। वित्त पोषण में ठोस एवं द्रव अपशिष्ट प्रबंधन, जिसकी सॉलिड लिक्विड वेस्ट मैनेजमेंट या गोवर्धन योजना की बात हो रही है, जिसे पंचायत की बात हो रही है। तो पंचायत में पंचायती राज सिस्टम के माध्यम से जो भारत सरकार का सहयोग है, राज्य सरकार का सहयोग है, उसमें बनाए जाने पर विचार होना चाहिए। पहले प्रदेश में किया गया, बाद में गोवर्धन योजना होने के बाद थोड़ा सा इंटरप्शन हुआ, थोड़ी पॉलिसी में परिवर्तन हुआ, इस पर विचार करना चाहिए। क्योंकि किसान जिसके खेत पे घर पे बन गया, हमें लग रहा 5-6 साल 7 साल 8 साल पहले से उसने फिर एलपीजी गैस लिया नहीं, ये सक्सेस स्टोरी है पूरे प्रदेश में कई जनपदों में। फिर इसके अलावा विभिन्न रोजगार योजनाओं में बैंकों से एग्रीकल्चर इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर फंड पोस्ट कोविड में भारत सरकार ने लागू किया, तो उसको हमारे ही सुझाव पे, मैंने राज्य सरकार के सुझाव पे हमने भारत सरकार के सामने ये बात रखी, उन्होंने गोवर्धन योजना एआईएफ दोनों को जोड़ दिया। तो कोई कमर्शियल स्केल पे, जैसे मान लिया कोई मिठाई वाला है या कोई ऐसा नमकीन बनाने वाला है जिसको रेगुलर गैस चाहिए, तो बड़ा डाइजेस्टर लगा ले, एआईएफ में उसकी फंडिंग हो जाएगी। फंडिंग में हम स्टेट गवर्नमेंट से 3% ब्याज की छूट दे रहे हैं, भारत सरकार 3% ब्याज की छूट दे रही है, और गोवर्धन योजना का जो इंसेंटिव मिल सके वो अवेल किया जा सकता है। और एग्रीकल्चर इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर फंड में गवर्नमेंट ऑफ इंडिया ने ये व्यवस्था दे रखी है कि इसमें एक या एक से ज्यादा योजनाओं के लाभ, लाभ का मतलब कैपिटल सब्सिडी, इंटरेस्ट सब्सिडी या इंटरेस्ट सबवेंशन जोड़ा जा सकता है, केंद्र या राज्य या दोनों का। तो जैसे गोवर्धन योजना का लाभ इसमें जोड़ा जा सकता है, एमएसएमई का लाभ जोड़ा जा सकता है, क्योंकि एमएसएमई ने इसको इंडस्ट्री के रूप में डिफाइन कर। दूसरा, जब कमर्शियल स्केल की बात आएगी तो भारत सरकार ने, फर्टिलाइजर मिनिस्ट्री ने अपने नोटिफिकेशन पिछले 2021-22 में किया था, उसमें बायो स्टिमुलेंट की कैटेगरी में डाल दिया। और मैं बताना चाहूंगा कि हमारा मिर्जापुर का एक एफपीओ बर्मी कंपोस्ट के रूप में इसकी स्लरी को एक्सपोर्ट कर रहा है, बर्मी कंपोस्ट ही बना रहा है, इसकी स्लरी भी मिला के उसको एक्सपोर्ट कर रहा है उसका सर्टिफिकेशन के साथ। तो मैंने किसान की ताकत इतनी है, पढ़ा लिखा लड़का है, हाईटेक पर बीएचयू का पढ़ा लिखा लड़का है। तो हमारा ये कहना है कि एग्रीप्रेन्योरशिप भी हम इसमें प्रमोट कर सकते हैं, वित्त पोषण करा के पंचायतों में भी व्यवस्था की जा सकती है, इसीलिए दिया गया है। संबंधित पंचायत, लाभार्थी समूह या लाभार्थी द्वारा इसके प्रबंधन की बात हुई। नेक्स्ट प्लीज, नेक्स्ट स्लाइड। इसके प्रकार की बात है, इसमें कम्युनिटी मॉडल और व्यक्तिगत मॉडल। व्यक्तिगत माने हम बैंक से लोन लेके बनाएंगे, और कम्युनिटी मॉडल माने पंचायत का मॉडल। अब ये कम्युनिटी मॉडल की बात हो रही है। कम्युनिटी मॉडल में ये जैसे जहां 800 से 1000 किलो कचरा है, ये करीब 14 लाख रुपए के आसपास, 13-14 लाख रुपए के आसपास लागत आएगी, और ये फॉरएवर हो जाएगा। इस तरीके का मॉडल हम लोगों ने कान्हा उपवन में 2014 में बनवाया लखनऊ में। उस समय तकरीबन 1200-1300 जानवर थे, आज करीब 4000 से ऊपर जानवर है, सरप्लस गोबर है। बट हम ये कहना चाहेंगे कि उतने 5 टन की कैपेसिटी का उस समय बनवाया था हम लोगों ने, अनइंटरप्टेड चल रहा है। करीब 150-200 स्टाफ वहाँ कैंपस में लेबर क्लास के लोग रहते हैं, सबकी कुकिंग पाइपलाइन से गैस दी गई है। तो एक सक्सेस स्टोरी हमारे पास है, और उसकी जो स्लरी निकलती है उस स्लरी की मार्केटिंग भी होती है, उसमें नर्सरी वाले या किसान स्वयं ले जाता है, उसकी कीमत अदा करता है। नेक्स्ट प्लीज। ये व्यक्तिगत परिवार साइज मॉडल है, इसकी लागत करीब 78,000 के आसपास है एज ऑन डेट। ये लागत थोड़ी घट बढ़ इसलिए सकती है कि सीमेंट की लागत क्या है, कंक्रीट की लागत क्या है, और ये पूरे स्ट्रक्चर में न पहले वाले में न इसमें कहीं सरिया का इस्तेमाल नहीं है, कास्टिंग है। वो सरिया जब होता है, सरिया में मॉइस्चर लगता है, फिर रस्टिंग होती है, फिर वो बाद में जो पुराने मॉडल में ये दिक्कतें होती थी, वो दिक्कत इसमें दुरुस्त कर दी गई है। नेक्स्ट, नेक्स्ट प्लीज। ये उसकी डिजाइन है। ये सांचा जैसे मेसन अभी हो रहा था, कौन बनाएगा, तो हमने राज मिस्त्रियों को उस समय, जब मैं कार्यक्रम डायरेक्टली देख रहा था, अब तो सलाहकार की मुद्रा में हो मैं शासन में, तो उसमें हमने मेसन्स को ट्रेनिंग दिया, उन्होंने अपनी मजदूरी ली, जाके बना दिया, बना के चालू कर दिया। तो इस तरीके के मॉडल की जिसकी चीज उसको सौंप दो, उसकी ओनरशिप होगी तो अपने आप चलने लगेगा। नेक्स्ट प्लीज।
ओझा सर, मेरी आवाज आप तक जा रही है?
जी जी।
आपके पास अब समय है करीब 3-3.5 मिनट। थैंक यू।
बस हम एकदम जल्दी खत्म कर रहे हैं, बस हम प्रेजेंटेशन में, बस स्लाइड ही है इसमें। इसमें देखिए, ये इसका एक ग्राफिकल प्रेजेंटेशन है। नेक्स्ट चलिए, नेक्स्ट। बायोगैस के प्रत्यक्ष लाभ जो मैंने शुरू में बताए वो अब इसमें दिया हुआ है, क्योंकि समय का अभाव है। नेक्स्ट प्लीज, आगे बढ़े। ये देखिए उस समय का मॉडल है, जो ये नीली शर्ट में दिख रहे हैं हमारे एग्रीकल्चर प्रोडक्शन कमिश्नर हैं और आईआईडीसी दोनों पद पे हैं। हम लोगों ने बायोगैस को पहली बार 2011 में सिलेंडर में भरा था और भर के ट्रांसपोर्ट किया था, और ये ट्रायल यूनिट है 2011 में, और ये बाएं हाथ जो बुजुर्ग व्यक्ति है ये उसका ओनर था। नेक्स्ट चलिए, जब वो सफल हो गया शहर वाली यूनिट में तो 2013 में बैंक से लोन लेके उसने ये गांव में यूनिट लगाई। नेक्स्ट, ये सक्सेस स्टोरी है इसकी। ये लखनऊ के इंजीनियरिंग कॉलेज में वहाँ एक उसमें एक इन हाउस के लिए वो एक डेयरी यूनिट भी है उसकी, उनकी अपनी एनिमल हस्बेंड्री क्लास को उसके पढ़ाने के लिए, तो उसमें गोबर बहुत होता था, तो उन्होंने बाउंड्री किनारे लगा लिया। करीब 350-400 बच्चों का हॉस्टल है, उस हॉस्टल में गैस की आपूर्ति होती है उससे। नेक्स्ट, ये उस समय जब ये यूनिट लग गई 2013 में, तो स्टाफ ऑफिसर एपीसी उस समय के थे, उन्होंने जाके उसका लोकार्पण किया, चालू हुई। नेक्स्ट, ये तत्कालीन 2014 में तत्कालीन सेक्रेटरी ड्रिंकिंग वाटर सैनिटेशन उस प्लांट को विजिट किया जो पहले यूनिट लगी थी लखनऊ में। इसमें हमारे उस समय वकील अहमद साहब भी है, उस समय हमारे सैनिटेशन प्रोग्राम में यूनिसेफ में थे, वो भी इन्होंने पार्टिसिपेट किया था उसमें। नेक्स्ट, ये उसके कुछ तथ्य हैं। और बायोगैस के बारे में मेरा अपना मानना है कि बायोगैस को हीटिंग के लिए इस्तेमाल किया जाए, न कि बिजली जनरेशन के लिए। बेस्ट यूज ऑफ बायोगैस इज हीटिंग। ये कुछ डाटा है जिसमें आप कंपैरिजन दिया गया हीटिंग कैलोरीफिक वैल्यू के हिसाब से। नेक्स्ट, क्योंकि अभी तक कोई इंजन नहीं सा बना नहीं है जिसमें एफिशिएंटली वो फंक्शन करे। 30-32% गैस लेता, बाकी बर्न करता, बाकी 62-63-60% वो एग्जॉस्ट के साथ निकाल देता है। तो हमारा सुझाव है कि इसमें मैक्सिमम हीटिंग के लिए इस्तेमाल किया जाए, और ये सुझाव ये है इस फोरम से कि इस पर रिकमेंडेशन सरकार को जरूर दिया जाए कि भारत गांवों में रहता है, किसानों को फोकस करके, क्योंकि हम सहकार से समृद्धि की बात भी कर रहे हैं, और आज से भारत सरकार ने सहकारिता अभियान भी चलाया, सदस्यता अभियान चलाया, जिसको आज माननीय मुख्यमंत्री जी ने यूपी में लॉन्च किया है। तो गांव गांव ये प्रयास हम लोगों का पहुंच जाए, ये बात थी। और आधा मिनट यदि अनुमति हो तो मैं जरा दूसरा वाला पार्ट में दे दूं, जिसको दिखा के तत्समय 2018 में मैंने एनटीपीसी में ब्लू स्काई इनिशिएटिव लॉन्च हुआ था, गौर करिएगा। नेक्स्ट चलिए, एनसीआर में यह हर साल समस्या आती है, कचरा ये एग्रीकल्चर वेस्ट जलाने से, उससे स्मोक की समस्या होती है। इस समस्या का हल निकालने के लिए उस समय 2018 में हम लोगों ने प्रयास किया था। नेक्स्ट, ये जलाने से क्या नुकसान होता है प्रकृति के साथ, ये डाटा दिया हुआ है, हम आप शेयर कर लीजिएगा आप लोग, समय अभाव है। नेक्स्ट प्लीज, मैं दिखाना चाह रहा हूं जो इसमें क्या है कि बायोमास ब्रिकेट कोई रॉकेट साइंस नहीं है, उसको कम बायोमास को कंप्रेस कर दिया जाता है कि ताकि उसकी बर्निंग टाइम बढ़ जाए। और हम लोगों ने यूपी में उस समय 2018 में एक प्रदूषण नियंत्रण बोर्ड से, चूंकि एनजीटी की नोटिस हुई थी यूपी गवर्नमेंट को कि भाई सस्टेनेबल सोल्यूशन दीजिए स्मोक के समस्या के समाधान के लिए, तो हम लोगों ने पहली यूनिट मैनपुरी में लगाई, जिसकी आगे मैं दिखाऊंगा, और कंप्रेस यूनिट वो लगी थी, और इसमें ईंट भट्ठों में 20% कंपलसरी कर दिया गया। इस साल बजट में भारत सरकार ने एनटीपीसी के जितने थर्मल पावर प्लांट है उससे 5 से 7% कंपलसरी कर दिया। तो एक ऐसी इंडस्ट्री खड़ा हो गई कि किसान को उसका अनाज का पैसा तो मिलता है, उसके बायोमास की बिक्री से अगली फसल के लिए उसको पैसा कैश मिल जाता है, इंडस्ट्री वाला दे जाता है। और यूपी में हमारे इंडियन ऑयल के और एचपीसीएल के 2 बड़े प्लांट लग रहे हैं, इंस्टॉल हो चुके हैं, और करीब कम से कम 200 के आसपास बायोकोल के प्लांट लगे हैं। कैसे बनता है इसका प्रक्रिया, नेक्स्ट प्लीज आगे चले। ये कैलोरीफिक वैल्यू देखिए, इतने तरीके का बायोमास, आप गौर करिएगा। जब हम कचरे की बात करते हैं तो आप जिसमें लेंटाना है, बेशरम की डंडी, तमाम हमारे तराई वाले इलाकों में जो लेंटाना है एक एनवायरमेंटल हैजार्ड क्रिएट हो चुका है। उसकी कैलोरीफिक वैल्यू देखिए, इसमें जितने सड़क के किनारे घास फूस निकलता है, सफाई में घास फूस निकलता है, जो ड्राई बायोमास है। नेक्स्ट चलिए प्लीज, ये चार्ट इसमें दिया हुआ कैलोरीफिक वैल्यू कितना है, कंटेंट है। और जो पीली स्लाइड में था, गौर करिएगा, तमाम ऐसे बायोमास है जो कोयले के बराबर की हीट देते हैं, यदि कंप्रेस कर दिया जाए तो। नेक्स्ट, ये प्रक्रिया है कैसे एग्रीकल्चर वेस्ट आता है बायोकोल बनता है। नेक्स्ट प्लीज, ये देखिए, ये पैलेट्स की छोटी इकाई लगा के गांव में, जैसे कम्युनिटी लेवल पे अभी हमारे सोडी साहब कह रहे थे कम्युनिटी लेवल पे, तो कम्युनिटी लेवल पे सिंगल फेज मोटर से 3 हॉर्स पावर की मोटर से चलने वाला एक पैलेट यूनिट है एग्रीकल्चर वेस्ट से गांव में, और फिर छोटे छोटे आईआईटी की टेक्नोलॉजी पे आधारित चूल्हे बने हुए हैं। उन चूल्हों से जो उज्ज्वला योजना में गैस की लागत बढ़ रही है या गैस को बार बार सरकार को मॉनिटर करना पड़ रहा है, तो अल्टीमेटली खाना पकाने के लिए एलपीजी सिलेंडर इस्तेमाल होता है, उसको हम सब्स्टिट्यूट के रूप में दे सकते हैं। तो पैलेट और ब्रिकेट, कमर्शियल यूज के लिए ब्रैकेट्स और डोमेस्टिक यूज के लिए पैलेट्स। प्लीज नेक्स्ट। ये मैनपुरी का यूनिट का जो उस समय लगवाया था हम लोगों ने 2018 में। नेक्स्ट प्लीज। ये हमारा उद्यमी इज द पायनियर ऑफ द स्टेट जिसने ये यूनिट लगाई। नेक्स्ट। आज कम से कम 3 इकाइयां इसके पास है। ये फसल अपशिष्ट से बनेगा बायोकोल। नेक्स्ट। इसी में आपने देखा होगा हरे रंग में इसमें लिखा हुआ है कि 20% कंपलसरी कर दिया पर्यावरण विभाग, और वो डॉक्यूमेंट हमें यूपी की प्रशंसा हुई एनजीटी में कि यूपी ने एक सस्टेनेबल सॉल्यूशन पेश किया है। तो हम इस फोरम पे यही हमारा नेक्स्ट फाइनल। धन्यवाद साथियों। कोई सवाल हो, बस हम यही इस फोरम से कहना चाहेंगे कि हम सस्टेनेबल सॉल्यूशन लेके चलें जिसमें जिसके लिए हम कर रहे हैं वो अडॉप्ट कर लें और लागत प्रभावी भी हो और व्यवसाय से जुड़ा हो। तो यही बात के साथ जय हिंद जय भारत। कोई सवाल हो तो मुझसे पूछा जाए मेरे से।
ओझा साहब, आपसे अनुरोध है कि आप अभी रुकेंगे ऑनलाइन, और जब हमारे वो बाकी स्पीकर बोल लेंगे तब जो ऑडियंस से होगा सवाल हम अनुरोध करेंगे कि आप उनका उत्तर दें। धन्यवाद।
जी जी, ओके ओके, थैंक यू।
Yes. No, it's not there. Good afternoon, everyone. No, it's been a long day, but thank you to IIT for this opportunity to talk about menstrual waste management and what can be done. Thank you. So from biogas to menstrual waste and why this is important and what we can do about it in especially in rural India. So why are we concerned about menstrual waste? Menstrual waste basically refers to the products that are used during periods, but it also is the bodily fluids and tissue that is released during periods, as well as all the wrapping material that is used. As you know, there are rules and regulations saying that sanitary pads now have to come with individual packaging. Also, in a lot of school-based programs, we encourage people to wrap the pads in paper, not in plastic, but in paper, surely. So when we look at menstrual waste, we actually mean that it's the product plus the bodily discharge that happens, as well as any wrapping materials. But why are we so concerned about this particular issue? Now, as per the National Family Health Survey 5, you see that in rural India, the usage of sanitary pads has increased significantly in the country. We are looking at about 68% of young women aged 15 to 24 years who are using sanitary pads. And in our country, with about 375 million people of reproductive age, this actually builds up to be a very significant number. We also see that with MNCs and a lot of social enterprises, the pad use or the disposable pad use is only going to grow in the country. Now, this is not necessarily a bad thing, but it also means that when we have government schemes that are providing free sanitary pads, and when we have a lot of free distribution that is happening by NGOs, SFGs, etc., at the community level, we do have to be looking at those waste management solutions as well. What happens when we don't manage sanitary pads well? So how many of you know what goes into a sanitary pad? What all is there? How is it made? Someone talked about cotton sanitary pads. It's not actually cotton. It's cellulose, which is made from wood pulp. It's got a lot of chemicals in it, additives that make it more absorbent. You've got super absorbent polymers. You've got a lot of plastic waste. We estimate that between 80 to 90% of a sanitary pad is actually plastic. Okay, and then you've got an absorbent piece to it. We've also got things like glues, a lot of chemical additives like scents, and other things which we actually don't know and manufacturers are not willing to reveal. Now, what happens when we look at the waste value chain, when we're looking at this waste is, it enters the system. People can throw it out in the open, so it can enter water bodies, fields. You can throw it in toilets and it can get into the sewerage system or into our twin pit toilets, septic tanks, etc. And when we look at it downstream, it causes problems. In urban areas where we have sewerage systems, it can cause blockage there. And we've had lots of newspaper stories on that. In rural areas, when it goes into twin pits and septic tanks, it can cause issues there and into the natural processes that occur, say, within a twin pit toilet. And you also see that in a lot of, people have been working in Bihar, in Chhattisgarh, in Jharkhand, where you have ponds. We actually are taking out a lot of just disposed pads in from ponds where people are bathing, they're taking water for domestic use, etc. So we do know that this is a problem when it's entering the environment, entering our sewage systems, or entering our toilets as well. And we also have an issue of the intersection with human and the human interface. Plus, we're also seeing that when we use burning technologies, whether it's incinerators or other kind of combustion-based solutions, is actually releasing a lot of toxic chemicals into the air because, as I said, 80 to 90% is actually plastic. Okay. So what do we do about this problem? Now, typically when we look at menstrual waste, we say, ठीक है, incinerator लगा देते हैं, वो one-shot solution है. But the work that I've been doing over a number of years, we have to tackle this problem at different levels. एक जो है कि policy and regulations, जो हमारे पास कुछ already regulations हैं, from Central Pollution Control Board, from the solid waste management guidelines for the rules, biomedical waste management rules, as well as product standards by the Bureau of Indian Standards. And we need to look at all of this in terms of rules and regulations when we are proceeding with. Second is कि actual solutions हम क्या इस्तेमाल कर सकते हैं घरेलू स्तर पर, community पर, and institutions such as schools or colleges, work sites, जहाँ bulk generation of waste होता है. And last is we also need to be looking at integrating this within our ongoing institutional mechanism. So SBM ग्रामीण में क्या हो रहा है, उसमें हम कैसे घुसा सकते हैं? SBM urban में क्या हो रहा है? How can we incorporate it within the work that municipal corporations are doing? So very quickly, when we look at the regulations that we have in India, the solid waste management rules clearly classify sanitary waste, diapers, condoms, incontinence materials, all as sanitary waste under solid waste. It is not considered biomedical waste, even though it has blood, bodily tissue as a part of it. It is very much considered as solid waste. So this, we have to think along these lines when we look at the downstream management. There are, however, some people who want to classify this as biomedical waste because of the blood content that is there, but the actual volume of blood is small. You have more body tissue. That's a part of it. However, if we classify it as biomedical waste, we're going to have huge problems in terms of waste management. So it's best to classify it under solid waste. And solid waste management rules also specify various ways in which this needs the rules and responsibilities of different stakeholders. Second is we also have in terms of management, in addition to solid waste rules, we also have Central Pollution Control Board that offers some guidance, especially for large scale or centralized incineration facilities. And currently, CPCB does not have rules for the small scale or decentralized or on-site incinerators, which are increasingly popular in India. So CPCB and State Pollution Control Board have no regulations on this, and neither does the Bureau of Indian Standards. Incinerator standards, BIS is working on it, but it's still in development mode. So we have nothing to assess the quality of these machines that are hugely popular. We have deep burial pits as well, that is often used for biomedical waste, but also used as a composting solution. And we can draw upon that for composting or deep burial solutions for menstrual waste as well. It's very important. हम products, menstrual product और waste management को अलग देखते हैं. They are very interlinked. What the product is made of has huge implications for waste management. तो यदि plastic है, तो कुछ options हमारे लिए लागू नहीं हैं. And if we're able to use products that have less plastic and more made with more natural products, then we have other options that open up to us. So these two things are important. And we have the Bureau of Indian Standards criteria for menstrual products that we should refer to. Okay, so very quick overview of solutions. And again, this is actually not specific to menstrual waste. This is completely borrowed from solid waste management. The reduce, reuse, and recycle principles very much apply to this as well. So one is, if you want to deal with menstrual waste, we also need to think कि हम इसको waste volume को कैसे reduce कर सकते हैं through the use of reusable products. Second is in terms of actual dealing with the waste. I think this morning a lot of discussions happened on segregation. immediate disposal of that product in a way that enables us to segregate it from other waste that may be generated at home or in schools or at work sites, in public toilets, community toilets, that is critical. Yadi wo waste segregated nahi hai, it becomes difficult for us to treat it efficiently. So how can we do that? And then we are looking at the end of life treatment. That is the transforming waste. Now, iske liye usually we're looking at combustion or burn-based solutions for pads because it's a one-stop shop and it's done. But we also need to be looking at alternatives because incinerators are not always possible in all settings. Plus, there are some issues with incinerators that we'll talk about. We are looking at some very innovative waste to resource solutions in India for menstrual waste. And I'll share one example of how that is happening. And lastly, we also need to be looking at awareness generation and how can we create that understanding amongst all stakeholders involved in this waste value chain. Now, with menstrual waste, as with solid waste and other type of waste, we have two kind of lines. एक जो है on-site, जहाँ waste generate होती है, can be treated there, and off-site, that we're taking it somewhere else. Now, for on-site solutions, you can have those छोटे वाले electric incinerators जो mostly dysfunctional and break down very easily. Or you can have those constructed chambers, tin से बने हुए, concrete से बने हुए structures that are installed often at the back of schools, jahan they manually burned with any locally available fuel, from newspaper to wood to kerosene to anything that's available, you can burn that. But in terms of their setup and their safety, there are some issues there. We are also looking at deburial and composting depending on the type of sanitary pads that are used. Now for off-site, now here we have technologically better solutions. So you can look at things like centralized incinerators, biomedical waste incinerator facilities. You can look at food processing. You can look at waste to resource technologies. And you can also look at common composting pits. But again, this really depends on whether those systems exist to enable this. I like looking at dustbins, but here, dustbins are an important piece of the puzzle, but I won't spend too much time here. Waste segregation, we've got some very interesting examples from Swachh Bharat Gramin ki, where does waste segregation happen effectively in rural India? In various parts, this is just an example of Chhattisgarh, but in Andhra Pradesh, Telangana, Chhattisgarh, and many other states, your Swachhanginis, your SFGDDs are all engaged in collection of segregated waste, and they often have a small packet or a tin box that is collecting the diapers and sanitary pads separately. The most popular solution, as I said, is incinerators. I'm sure all of you who have worked in solid waste have considered incinerators or have supported incinerator. Now, typically the incinerators that we are looking at are these kinds, or something that looks like this. They are either this big or bigger. They are mostly electricity fueled. They have a capacity of anywhere between 10 to 50 pads maybe. And yeah, so this is what it looks like. Unfortunately, what we see is most of these machines, about 80 to 90% of on-site machines that are available in India, do not have any safety protocol. They also burn at much lower temperatures. They're burning between 250 to about 350 degrees Celsius. But to burn plastic efficiently, that is present in the sanitary pads, you need temperatures of 800 degrees Celsius. So we're looking at the large-scale incinerator system. So unfortunately, while these are a convenient option, they are not always safe. यहाँ किसी ने incinerators लगाए हैं in their projects? Yeah. How many of them are functional? Unfortunately, I have not. I have been to many schools and I am yet to see a functional incinerator. They are jammed up. They don't burn efficiently. वो जो cleaner है, sanitation worker है, या जो भी दीदी वहाँ काम कर रही है, उनको अपना हाथ लगा के सारे pads को निकालना पड़ता है. Okay, so there is an issue. While they are, as I said, convenient and cost effective, क्योंकि ये 5,000, 10,000, 15,000 में मिल जाते हैं, there is an issue in terms of functionality as well as safety. If you look here, ये कुछ pictures है field से. एक जो है कि electricity connection ही नहीं है. Because many of our rural areas, there may be intermittent electricity, or it's not sufficient to power the incinerator. Second is कि हमें एक vent pipe चाहिए होता है for all incinerators to ensure कि जो fuels निकलते हैं, they are led out of the premises. But यहाँ देखिए vent pipe तो toilet के अंदर ही it's there. Or वेंट पाइप लंबा है, इट्स गोइंग आउट ऑफ द विंडो और बच्चों का क्लासरूम यहाँ है और वेंट पाइप इज पॉइंटिंग टुवर्ड्स द क्लासरूम. So what we are thinking कि हम waste को we are effectively dealing, we are actually creating another hazard. The children are inhaling toxic fumes. So we have to think about कि हम इसको कैसे कर सकते हैं. That's also a cost-effective solution because I understand that that's a problem. कुछ innovations हो रहे हैं. We have tried solar-based models in India, but nothing has really taken off for menstrual waste because we need higher temperatures. This is an LPG-fueled incinerator that's currently still under development, but it is very expensive. It's estimated to be 80,000 to about 1 lakh for its operation, but it is a clean machine, meaning it will control for the emissions as per standards. But again, we still need a lot more experimentation and innovation for creating good quality, and by good quality I mean जो emission control कर सकते हैं, those kinds of incinerators. Any of you who worked in the field would have also seen these kind of models. These are matka incinerators that are made with clay. You'll find cement, you'll find tin. A lot of them are present in many parts of the country, and under Swachh Bharat Mission Gramin, many of us have been engaged in kind of coming out with several of these as a stopgap measure while we figure out other solutions. Just some examples of how other state and state governments have looked at incinerators. This is from Jharkhand. Uttar Pradesh, under their Operation Kayakalp, the government of Uttar Pradesh came out with a very robust construction. It wasn't a purchased incinerator, but a constructed one next to a school toilet with a long chimney and vent pipe. But again, the same issues of being able to burn at the right temperatures to ensure complete destruction of the pad. Karnataka has gone a different way. The government of Karnataka has followed a robust process for identifying vendors who can provide a good quality incinerators, but we're yet to see how successful this has been. In Andhra Pradesh, they're doing something called waste management sheds with the support of UNICEF. So the government of Andhra Pradesh has established these waste management sheds at the Gram Panchayat level, and people go and collect the segregated waste from households, bring it here, and then they used a common, slightly larger incinerator to burn the pads and the diapers even. We are looking at centralized incineration facilities, but we don't have very good examples. It's very urban. Bangalore tries it to some extent. Goa is going to try it as well. That the municipal corporation is collecting the sanitary pads and diapers, or to centralized machines, चाहे वो biomedical या common hazardous waste incinerators है, वहाँ भेज रही हैं for burning. And I can provide more details to anyone who's interested.
Arundati, another 2-3 minutes, thank you.
Sure. So very quickly, we're trying deep burial solutions as well. मतलब हम ये above ground pit बना सकते हैं या below ground deep burial pit बना सकते हैं. This is not a ideal solution. This is जहाँ हम और कुछ नहीं लगा सकते हैं और आपके पास waste है, जैसे कि in very rural schools, ashramshalas, KGPVs, where electricity supply is intermittent, ये waste को decompose कर देती है, but the plastic content in that waste will remain. So these are just some examples of where it has been tried in Chhattisgarh, in Maharashtra. In some parts, we are trying vermicomposting and composting of natural sanitary pads. So natural fibers ke bane hain. So now we have bamboo pads, we have banana fiber pads, which have bioplastics, not your regular plastics. So we can try these kind of home-based composting solutions as well, or community composting, provided the plastic use is minimal. This is a very interesting innovation that we have in the country, which is a model that is completely recycling the sanitary pad. And this is by Pad Care Labs. So they are able to separate the cellulosic, the absorbent or the cellulose, the plastic and the SAP in the pads, and they're able to make usable products from this. So the plastic is used to make other products, the cellulose is used to make paper, and various other such products. And it's a bit expensive. It's more or less tried at the urban level right now by several municipalities. But it's an interesting model for us to try and see where it can work in rural areas, and you can see more on this YouTube. Some states are trying these hackathons. Telangana last year, we supported to do a hackathon to find very context state specific solutions. That's another option. Behavior change is important, but I won't spend too much time on this. I want to highlight some states and cities that have tried to do something. Last year, we supported Patna Municipal Corporation to look at how menstrual waste can be integrated into their solid waste plan. What does that look like? So this is a document that's available. And just this year, we have supported the government of Rajasthan under their Udan scheme, which is distributing sanitary pads for free to all girls and women of reproductive age across the state. They are now looking at a formal policy for menstrual waste, but they've taken a very interesting stand. They are discouraging localized or decentralized management of menstrual waste. So schools may, at a community level, they are discouraging it, and they want to come up with mechanisms कि जो भी menstrual waste है उसको हम centralized और biomedical incinerator facilities तक कैसे ले जा सकते हैं. So they want to push this because they realize that the centralized small scale the decentralized or on-site small scale incinerators, if they break down, so that's going to be problematic. Rural areas of Rajasthan have intermittent electricity supply, so they want to try the off-site thing. So it's a very interesting policy take, but we'll see. This policy is still under review, and we'll see if it gets passed and what happens in the coming year. And lastly, I just want to highlight that we can also look at reducing waste volumes with menstrual waste by supporting the use of reusables. We've also got, we've got several governments at the district level, municipality level that have encouraged reusables in countries. So a very interesting option for some of us to explore as well. So I'll end here for questions. Thank you, Sanjeev. Sorry, I went. Oh, Andy.
Requesting our next speaker.
Can you open the presentation? Good afternoon, everyone. I am Manoj Agarwal from Ambuja Cement Foundation. I will touch upon very briefly some of the solid liquid waste management and the bio waste management work done into the villages which has been chosen for the lighthouse villages under the Swachh Bharat Mission 2. So we, as an enabler, is working with the government of India and government of Rajasthan under the India Sanitation Coalition and FICCI to develop these villages as a lighthouse initiative, lighthouse villages. So total around 14 gram panchayat and 28 villages has been chosen under the 4 states where we have the long presence working with the community from last so many years. And this initiative just started in last year, and within a 1 year, I think 3, I share the methodology and other work, how we have been working on in this initiative. The 3 villages has been converted into the model village into the last 15th of August this year, and 7 villages are now into the rising capacity category. They will be converting very soon within a month, and others are into the aspiring category. I think this is a very, very unique model. Government of India is aspiring to become ODF into the Swachh Bharat Mission 1, 2, now the model village into the Swachh Bharat Mission 2, and more. This is basically looking for the best management into the supply chain management so that the sustainability can be ensured. So it has been actually started with a lot of support and the coordination, bringing the officials from the government of India and government of Rajasthan and Gram Panchayat to understand the existing situation in each and every village which has been actually selected for this initiative, and then develop the unique DPR for each villages separately, so that the whatever work is required for the solid waste management, liquid waste management, the bio waste or plastic waste management, all has been covered into the DPR, and the different fund provision has been earmarked to actually address this issue into these villages. So under all the villages, the performance, progress is very encouraging, except the Himachal Pradesh, which is no progress. I must acknowledge because of the sum of the fund crunch. Otherwise, in the Rajasthan, Maharashtra, and the Gujarat, every village is now government is very, very supportive from the liquid waste management for connecting all the drainage and then safe disposal of all the household liquid into the safe places. And then the major important thing is the solid waste management, collection of door-to-door collection, and then into the resource recovery center, and then resource recovery center to some kind of a waste to wealth creation, so that the revenue model can be created for the long-term sustainability. Whatever has been planned into the DPR, I think 80-90% work has already been completed, and we are expecting with the support of the government of state government and the government of India, all this work in the next 1.5 months, I think, will be completed. So you can see the community toilets has been created in some of the villages. In some of the villages, drainage has been connected and repaired. In some of the villages, you can see the resource recovery center in all the villages has been covered. Also, a lot of campaign has been promoted under this because the community awareness was the key to sustain this model basically. Wash campaign, the no plastic campaign, and the session on menstrual hygiene was the major campaign we have been working. One of the villages into the Gujarat, the model has been tried out for the plastic waste management through the formation of the Swayam Sahayata Samooh of the village rag pickers, and then collection of this plastic through the government system, and then this plastic is now being selling to our nearby plant because the cement plant is the most safe disposal for any kind of plastic or the wet material because 1400-degree temperature is there. So this is a complete livelihood model where the plastic can be sold to on the 5 rupees or 10 rupees per kg, whatever is the agreement, and can be the sustainable model. So this has been happening in Gujarat and even 2 villages into the Chhattisgarh as well. Lot of capacity building, bringing all the gram panchayat and their community member into some of the model villages where already these been converted. In every village, people have been taken to understand and visualize how this model village will be look like after the completion of this work. Menstrual hygiene sessions, lot of coordination meeting were actually key to bringing all the stakeholders together to take this work ahead. I'll not take much time. Yeah. So a lot of IEC activities on each and every part, the household collection, solid waste management, then convert into the resource recovery, and how this could be into the behavioral change, because there are 3 components. One is the behavioral change component, then household collection, and then the safe disposal and the supply chain management. So in all the villages, a lot of IEC activities has been done in all the villages. Some of the challenges, still we have the challenges, but we are getting good support from the government wherever we are having the good, liaison. So now I will touch upon few slides on how biomass management we are handling in some of our villages. We are talking about the non-fodder biomass, which is generally we always heard the farmer burn into the crop residue into the farms, and it is a hazardous waste, and a lot of noise during the harvesting season. So this is the livelihood source for the farmer. This is the model where the livelihood source for the farmer, alternative energy for the nearby cement plant or the power plant basically. So we have actually formed the farmer producer organization of the smallholder farmer into that area of one block or the one district. All the farmer collected their biomass and safely supplied through the farmer producer organization to some of the safe disposal site of the power plant or the cement plant. So this is the model where the company plants are there, then farmer producer organization there, and the different villages, village development committees are there. The farmer are the member farmer clubs are there, and every individual single small farmer has the right to supply their own biomass, which is non-fodder biomass. Otherwise, he has to burn into the field to the plant site and get the additional source of income out of that. So around each site, I think 2,000 farmer are now part of the farmer producer organization. We have 6 farmer producer organizations as of now, one in Gujarat, Maharashtra, Rajasthan, in Punjab, in Himachal and Chhattisgarh. So complete supply chain from the harvesting to the safe disposal into the plant has been derived. Complete pricing strategy has been also been derived on the basis of the calorific value of the biomass and the distance the farmer is traveling from one place to that disposal site. So on 6 locations, we are actually working on this model. We have come out with each and every biomass available into the area of 100 kilometer and the calorific value, and what should be the cost and what should be the profit for the farmer. Complete supply chain model we have been set up. And in last few years, more than 2 lakh ton biomass has been supplied through this model and safely disposed of. That has been given the additional income of 20 to 30,000 per farmer, small farmer out of this initiative. Thank you.
We can take at least a couple of questions, but we have time for that. Post which we'll break for lunch.
Ask one question.
Go ahead, sir. Thank you.
Very excellent presentations, all three of them. Manoj, I have one question for you. When you have formed these farmers, producers organizations, what sort of benefit sharing is happening between them? The members on the produce, which is being benefited to the farmer and to the farm producer organization. Excellent points here.
So the benefit sharing, first of all, I will give you the idea how the cost is actually driving. The cost is driving on the basis of calorific value. It is around 1.5 rupees per kilocalorie per kg. Basically, if the 22,000 kilocalorie is the calorific value, then the costing is around 3,000 rupees per ton. Basically, out of that 3,000 rupees, only 50 rupees is keeping by the farmer producer organization just to run that organization. Otherwise, rest of the amount is directly transferred to the farmer. Basically, yeah, thank you. Yeah, certainly.
Yeah, please go ahead. Thank you.
Ma'am, I have a question. Yeah. Hi. Really good to see the presentation. So I just wanted to know, like you said, there are different ways to process and dispose it. What are some good models for collection of it? Because I guess key challenge still remains in the collection aspect of it. And we are not able to segregate wet and dry right now. How does the third category get stored and collected?
Very good question, and we don't have clear-cut answers because it goes back to we have to be able to segregate waste, and it's a part of that segregation. So what we know from some states where they've done this in rural areas is really door-to-door awareness generation that has happened as a part of solid waste management under SBM Gramin. And their household level pay, they have been told that waste needs to be segregated, or pads or diapers need to go into a separate bag or a separate dustbin. Some places like Andhra, the Gram Panchayats have even raised money to give households dustbins, like 20 rupee dustbins for diapers and pads, so that it can be collected. But unko bol dete ki paper mein lapet kar throw it, so that when that collection happens, it's able to happen safely. In schools, it's a little easier because you're not dealing with other types of waste in the bathroom. The girls' bathroom, if you have a dustbin or a disposal chute, तो उसमें more or less you are seeing that it's used pads. Problem वहाँ है कि most of the time it's unwrapped. तो जो sanitation worker है या जो cleaner है, they are dealing with that waste with their hands क्योंकि gloves वगैरह वो कुछ नहीं होता है. But that's how it's happening. School level, at least a separate dustbin. Household level, the encouragement from door-to-door IEC engagement, community meetings, etc., to be able to segregate waste. But the issues that we face in terms of wet waste and dry waste segregation, we face here as well. Because it takes time to bring about that mind shift change at the household level. Schools makes it a little easier, but at the household level, the same issues prevail. So,
right, ma'am. So my point was also like wet waste needs to be collected every day. Dry waste can be collected at a certain frequency as well. Yes. But menstrual waste also is something which needs to be collected at a smaller frequency, I guess.
A smaller frequency because it will start.
You can't store that.
You cannot store pads and diapers for a very long period of time. So it has to be a part of your daily waste collection, your frequent waste collection. It has to be a part of that. Some like one of the biggest examples that's always quoted for us is what Pune has done under the Swachh and the Red Dot campaign, jahan the waste workers themselves refused to collect waste from households unless they got segregated waste. But the union was extremely strong in Pune. And the waste workers union completely supported the waste workers that we will stand behind you if you refuse to collect garbage. And when they systematically did this, then households started or were forced to separate out the garbage. But that also did not take 1 week or 1 month or a few months. It took years to get there. That process in Pune has gone on since late 2000s.
Yes.
You know, it's not something that happened overnight. And anybody you speak to who has been involved, from the Waste Workers Union to the waste workers to Swatch to Pune Municipal Corporation, they will tell you it was a process. Some localities converted faster, some converted later, but it was a long-term process. And I think someone said earlier that this waste game is a long game, and we have to keep at it. And there may be different ways in which we can encourage segregation of waste, but that I think we need to understand how or what are those strategies by which people are being encouraged to segregate waste. Is there an incentive-based model? Is there some other kind of model? How are we bringing about that mind shift? Unfortunately, I don't think we have enough insights on that. Because once we're able to crack कि हम segregate क्यों करेंगे, like as an individual, then we can say अच्छा wet waste करो, dry waste करो, sanitary waste अलग से कर लो. But until we realize or understand what's going to trigger people to do that, now we're going to face this problem.
Right. Last question. So like for plastic, there is now EPR, which is pretty well established. Like there's a whole journey to it. Like it started very high, now it's another lows. So how far are we to see similar for the sanitary waste, or is it happening anything?
We are struggling with EPR. First of all, understanding what EPR means in the context of sanitary pads, diapers, incontinence materials. We do have some insights onto the large market players in India. But the readiness that they have to put in funds to deal with the waste. Now, people like PNG, who has the largest market share, they have 85% roughly of the market share of products in India. They are putting money into awareness sessions. They are not putting money into the waste. I mean, there is some talk that they are going to have a recycling plant in the outskirts of Pune. We don't know if that will happen or not. But there has to be a more, we have to figure out what we mean by EPR, what we want these companies to do. We have actually, in some states, we have had a discussion where the procurement is happening at a state level for state level schemes for distribution. They are not procuring from large scale manufacturers. They are procuring from, like third party vendors who are white label product manufacturers. How do you hold them accountable? And we are procuring pads from them in the crores, right? So how can we hold them accountable? It is simply not saying कि आप एक pouch दे दो for individual pack wrapping, क्योंकि वो pouch भी plastic का ही है. So then we can say ठीक है, आप bioplastic का बना दो, या that what is that, the cornstarch packaging that uska bana do. But these are not vendors who are thinking along that line. They are used to producing these white label packets. They don't care about standards. How do we hold them accountable? How do we change our procurement processes at a state level to say कि जो हम procure करेंगे that will follow BIS standards, including the packaging that we require for the wrappers. So I think we have to start thinking along these lines, and we do know that several states are already thinking what they can do differently. But again, sorry, we don't have a clear cut. We're still struggling with what this means. And we have to engage our large-scale manufacturers, these mid-level manufacturers, and enterprises that are in this game better to understand what that would look like.
Thanks, Ali.
Great question.
Rajma has a point. Thanks, Arundati. Rajma has a point, yeah.
Arundati, just two questions. I'll take the second one first because he's just asked you this question. From a policy perspective, even though this is a state subject, we can still influence policy at the center level, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So given the fact that this is not something which is rocket science, we could effectively, through your office or through other offices, be able to put this in place as a policy recommendation. It can't be that hard to do.
No, Natasha, it's not. But the responsibilities at the center and state level, because this does come under a. No, while we don't have a menstrual health is not a state subject, but under health or sanitation, it will come as a state subject.
State subject, right.
At the central level, with the Supreme Court directive, we do see that the Ministry of Health and Family Welfare is now taking leadership to develop the new policy guidelines.
Right.
And we have flagged to Dr. Zoya that menstrual waste is an issue that requires consideration. However, from a technical point of view, I think we still need to work out what are those solutions that we can feasibly offer. What we are seeing is at a state level, that those states are thinking about what they can do, because the distribution of sanitary pads or other products or the institutional mechanisms or the solid waste mechanisms that are in place, that's happening at a state level. And we can tap into that key state level policies, what can we do? State level solutions, what can be rolled out? So, for example, in Rajasthan, if we say that they want to do through the biomedical incinerators, we can say, Acha, in Rajasthan, we have between 11 to 12 or 10 to 12 functional biomedical incinerators. We can map those districts. We can say that of now the 50 districts in Rajasthan, which districts can be connected to that and which cannot, and what do we need to? But though that thinking and that policy formulation, I feel while we can have guidance at a national level, that actual plans need to be at a state level, because those contexts differ, and the what each state wants to do will also differ. Like Karnataka wants to have incinerators at a GP level. They want the Gram Panchayats to take ownership ki where all they want to put the incinerators, in schools, in community toilets, etc. Rajasthan has gone the complete opposite way, or they're proposing the opposite. So we need to understand those state contexts and see, okay, what can we do?
But are they doing it in the opposite way only because the center has not given a directive, or are they doing it because they have the option not to do it?
I think they're trying to see what makes sense to them. They, in some of these states, they may also be consulting with the state pollution control board and seeing what the state pollution control board is recommending, because under our solid waste management rules, all incinerators will have to go through the state pollution control board for final that is this an incinerator that we can that is functional and can be used for processing this kinds of waste. I mean, ideally, in the ideal scenario. So I think it's some of them are consulting with that. Some of them are saying, okay, under Swachh Bharat Mission Gramin, we have these setups and therefore we can leverage it. So it really depends on what they are looking at, where they see those opportunities, and who is guiding that process.
So it goes back to what I'm saying. There is no clear-cut guideline which is being given by the center, which is why the states have the flexibility to be able to decide what they want to do. Okay, so that's fine. But the other question, or the other, I guess, assumption I'm making, hearing what you're saying, is that at a state level, they have the flexibility is there for them to be able to operate whichever way they want. The center is only going to give it as a guidance. So effectively, that's where your challenge is coming up, right?
I actually feel it's good to have central guidance, because a uniform policy may not work in every state.
No, but for example, purchasing of the right kind of sanitary napkin.
Yes.
Simple things like that could be a centralized guideline, right?
It can, and we do have that. But the issue, again, is that, for example, we have the Bureau of Indian Standards. They've been extremely proactive and forward-thinking. However, if you talk to CPCB or BIS, they will say that we are not enforcement agencies. We develop the rules. We'll develop the standards. But it's a responsibility of the state and the department that is taking ownership to enforce it. Don't come to BIS and CPCB saying, hame enforce karna. We can't, because that's not our role.
No, but they can at least give a guide. They can at least.
But they have that.
Yeah.
I mean, both these agencies will have it. Even at the central level, you'll have your national guidelines that says procurement, you procure like this. But then ultimately, the enforcement lies with that department and at that state level. And now we are trying that with BIS. We're saying, okay, let's go to states and let's do these orientations, because maybe not everyone knows about standards for products. We know that we've tried to speak with CPCB saying, speak to states and say, now that we see incinerators are popular, what can state pollution control boards do for that? I think that gap of capacity building or of orientation to understand these issues, that I think is a gap that we do need to fill. And going back, actually, Natasha, I agree. We should have like a central level guidance on menstrual waste, which we actually did with Department of Drinking Water Sanitation, but it's quite dated now. It was 2018 when we developed that.
It needs to be
we need to revise it. We need to look at the new options available. We've got good insights from states now, thanks to SPM Grameen. I think UNICEF did an incinerator study very recently. They've got insights. We need to now pull all this together to provide that central guidance.
One last question. Did I hear you say then that individual incinerators are not the way forward, but that communal incinerators are really the way forward? Is that what I heard you say?
I think that on-site, the small decentralized on-site incinerators, what we call them, they can be an option if they are technologically sound. Right now, we are not finding that they are technologically sound. They're breaking down easily, and therefore they're becoming dysfunctional. But you're able to put money. So I think we have to figure out if we can identify vendors who can provide good quality incinerators that burn at decent temperatures. We know that you can't put an incinerator that burns at 800 degrees Celsius in a school. It's unsafe for those children, but what can be feasible? There are innovations that are happening in this space that you use other kinds of processes in addition to temperature to burn this waste and control for emissions. Can we identify those solutions? Can we see what can be done at an on-site? Because we understand the centralized one is also complex. I mean, if you look at big states, UP, MP, Maharashtra, Rajasthan, I mean, to transport this waste from villages is going to be difficult.
Integrate it into, say, your decentralized FSTP policy. I mean, I'm just giving that as an option. Then that could work, right? Because it is a very integrated subject.
We can look at that. We can also look at provision of better quality products, especially or different quality products under the state schemes for free distribution, because that itself will make a dent on how we can deal with this waste in a decentralized way.
Thanks.
Thank you.
We'll take one more question from Sir.
Yes, there are none. Then
please go ahead, ask your question.
Yeah, ma'am, it's evident from your presentation that the basic problem is with the product, which is being imposed on the consumers by the big players. And if we know that the basic problem is the product, instead of banning that product, we are fighting with the technologies, this and that. What do you say about this? Because you only said none of the incinerators is working. Even if the incinerator is working, it is not as per the WHO standards. The other technologies are just burning of the sanitary pads. So why don't you concentrate on the? I mean, you mean the nation? My question is to the nation or the government itself. But the wrong products are being imposed on the consumers, and we are fighting and finding the solutions to overcome the problems. So why not concentrate on the basic problem itself and ban the wrong products?
So a very interesting take. However, when we look at the market in India, disposable sanitary pads are very well established, and there is a huge user preference for these products.
Because they are not aware of the ill effects of those products.
Even if you are aware, there are people who are aware, and it is a comfort factor. The product is comfortable. It is suiting a purpose. It's supporting a need. I think what we can do is move towards looking at how do you make these products safer for the users and environment.
Yes.
So you do have, a lot of social enterprises are coming up with, pads made out of bamboo fiber, of banana fiber, of hemp fiber, reusable pads. You've got menstrual cups, menstrual discs. All this is coming to the India market. Now, market impact is one of the richest in the world. So what we say is, see, at the end of the day, consumers have to have choice. If someone wants to use a disposable sanitary pad, she should have 100% choice to do that. So while we can't say we can ban any product, we can hold our manufacturers accountable through standards that do exist in our country. But we cannot, unfortunately, also insist that all disposable sanitary pads are made of natural materials, because we have already faced pushback from our PNG, J&J, pushback massively, because India is a big market, so we can't throw them out. And we can't also ask them to shift their manufacturing practices to say, Ojha, you will only have natural fibers in your products. That's also not going to happen. I think where we can ask them to is that a more honest declaration of what is in that product, so we know how to manage it, and figure out through EPR rules or other processes where the waste management solutions that they're also coming up with. If they have 85% of the market share, they should also come up with certain solutions for waste management. But here is where our gap or our failure has been. that we have not been able to successfully lobby with the large-scale manufacturers on both ends, making their products better and supporting with waste management solutions. So it's something that we have to try and work much harder at least from my end.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. We won't be able to take any further questions for this session. Thank you for your patience. With this, we come to the conclusion of this plenary session on behalf of ISC team. Thank you to our contributors. Thank you so much.